Hi Retro Gamers, how are you doing today? As some of you may know, I love fighting games, and the Dreamcast is one of the systems with the best ones. So, in this video, I'm going to rank my favorite games in this beloved console and talk a little about each game. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to like and to subscribe. Let's start. Guilty Gear X. If you like fighting games and have time to dedicate yourself to the game, this is the game for you. The graphics are one of the best in any fighting game, the music rocks, and the roster is superb. The gameplay is no Street Fighter, like any Guilty Gear or Blast Blue, both from Arc System. You need to play at least 100 hours to play decently, and study very well the frame data to play above average. But as everything in life, hard work always brings reward, and this game is marvelous for those who know how to play it. Street Fighter Alpha 3. Street Fighter Alpha 3 is the third and final installment of the Street Fighter Alpha sub-series, which served a prequel to Street Fighter 2. Talking about Street Fighter 2, this game has all characters from Street Fighter 2 and a total of 38 characters. In my opinion, the Street Fighter Alpha series is not as good as Street Fighter 2, 3, 4 and even 5, but is very good for casual players. In this game, you can choose between 3 different playstyles. The standard playing style based on the previous Street Fighter Alpha games, in which the player has a 3-level super combo launch, a style based on Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, when each player has a single super combo launch and access to a single but powerful super combo move, and a third style that allows the player to perform custom combos. This game is also known for being the first game that Daigo Umehara, that I have the pleasure to meet in 2016 in a local tournament, played outside Japan to face the best US player at the time, Alex Val, also known as Mr. Street Fighter. It was Japan vs US, and Daigo won the contest. Daigo is still today a competitive player, and is for many the best all-time Street Fighter player, winning top tournaments all over the world. Vampire Chronicles. Unfortunately, this game was only released in Japan. This game has all the characters from previous installments of the series: Dark Soldiers, Night Warriors Dark Soldier Revenge and Dark Soldiers 3. The complete soundtracks for all 3 games are also available, based on the playing style. I love the roster in this game, and we can see many of these characters such as Morrigan, Dimitri, Anakarish, Felicia in many Capcom crossover games. The gameplay is very deep, and we need to have many knowledge of the game. That is why Japanese players love it, and even 2 decades after the last original game released, this franchise continues to have an active community with many followers in Japan. Kings of Fighters 99. I love Kings of Fighters, and I love Kings of Fighters characters. Characters such as Terry, Andy, Joe, Kyu, Yori, King, Ryo, Roberto Garcia, Takuma, Half, Clark, the wonderful bosses as Rugal, Orochi, Mukai, Zero, and how can we forget the girls as Blue Mary, Mai, Ula, Athena, Yuri, Maturu, Viz, Leona, Janet, and so many others. I don't like that much 3-on-3 fighting games and fighting games with teams, but the Kings of Fighters franchise is so good. It has characters from so many franchises such as Fatal Fury, Art of Fighting, Ikari Warriors, and so many good original characters that I almost forgot the game is 3-on-3. In my personal opinion, Kings of Fighters 99 is not as good as Kings of Fighters 98, but it's an excellent game with so many good characters that any fighting game lover shouldn't miss. Last Blade 2. The Last Blade was developed and released by SNK in 98. Like its predecessor, The Last Blade is a weapon-based versus fighting game, originally released to the arcades. This game is a samurai shodown with combos. because Samurai Shodown 1, 2 and 3 didn't have many combos. The game was inspired by the manga of Rurouni Kenshin, that is by far my favorite manga. The game is set in the same period and some characters have many resemblances to the manga. In my opinion, this is the most underrated fighting game ever. This is also said by Justin Long that is the best US pro player in the world, with more than 100 tournaments won in many different franchises. And for those who play this game, it's very easy to see why. Excellent characters, one of the best original soundtracks in any fighting game, good story, and everything a fighting game lover could ask. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 New Age of Heroes. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 New Age of Heroes is the fourth installment of the Marvel vs. Capcom series. Unlike Marvel vs. Capcom 1, in this sequel we play with a team of 3 fighters. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 contains a roster of 56 playable characters. The roster have characters from many Marvel comics, such as the Avengers, X-Men, Spider-Man and others. And from Capcom side includes Street Fighter, Dark Soldiers, Resident Evil, Mega Man and others like Strider for example. Gameplay wise, this is one of the best games ever made. We can play against a friend and playing like a party game, or learn to play and master the game, just like a pro player. This is one of the fighting games with a longer run in 4 tournaments, and it was one of the main games in the most important fighting game tournament, the Evolution, for over a decade. Finish! Capcom vs SNK 2. What more can I say about this game? I already talked so many times about this game in previous videos. This was a dream come true for any fighting game lover. The two best companies gathered their best characters to make one of the best and legendary fighting games ever made. For me, playing with Ryu from Street Fighter and Terry in the same game and in the same team was a dream come true. Fatal Fury, Mark of the Wolves. I love the Fatal Fury franchise, and in my opinion, this Mark of the Wolves, Fatal Fury, Really About 2 and Last Blade, also from SNK, are the most underrated fighting game ever made. The quality in these games is over the top. Mark of the Wolves have one of the best combo systems ever made in any fighting game, and despite Terry being the only returning character, all new characters and bosses are very good, and some of those new characters were also part of the Kings of Fighter later installments. In Japan, in January of 2000, Game Machine listed Garo Mark of the Wolves as being the most successful arcade game of the year.
KO! Stand up! Round 2. Fight!
Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. After more than 20 years after its release, Street Fighter 3 is still for many pro players the best fighting game ever made. The mechanics in this game, especially the parry system, is probably the best ever in any fighting game. This game is responsible for resurrecting the fighting games in probably the best moment in gaming history. Call it Evo Moment 37, where once again Daigo the Beast Umehara was involved. Daigo did the impossible by pairing all the hits in Chun-Li's super art with the last pixel of health, while the crowd went crazy. Despite the game only have 4 old characters, almost all new characters are great, and many of them are playable characters in Street Fighter 4, 5 and Street Fighter 4 Tekken. Super Street Fighter 2 X. I know this may be a weird choice for some of you, but I love this game since I was a kid. And still today, in 2020, the only game that I would put in front of Street Fighter 2 would be Ultra Street Fighter 4. Street Fighter II completely revolutionized the fighting game. It was light years ahead from the previous fighting games. The quality of the game is so high that even today, 30 years after its release, there are still tournaments all over the world. Many modern fighting games die 1 or 2 years after the release. About this sport, as usually as almost all the Dreamcast fighting games, everything is almost perfect, and it was one of the games that I played the most. And how about you gamers? Which Dreamcast fighting game is your favorite? Please let me know in the comments. See you in the next video.